The hour of 5:30 p.m. having arrived, I'll call to order this special meeting of the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. This meeting is being televised live on Channel 13-02. The video is also posted on the city website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone wishing to view a copy of the proposed operating budget will find it on the city webpage, and copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets as you enter the meeting rooms. The public and other city councilors will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes has had a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room and identify themselves by name and address prior to speaking. I will now call to order this special meeting of Finance Organization and Personnel Committee and declare a quorum present. Councilor Remy has requested to be allowed to participate remotely. Councilor Remy, please state the reason for your request. Is he on there yet?
Yep, sorry, I'm here. I'm traveling remotely for work. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay. And hearing no objection, Councilor Remy, please state that you have stated the location and identify anyone else who is present with you.
No.
All right. And the minute taker is participating remotely this evening. So committee members, please be sure to turn on your microphones when speaking. And if the minute taker is unable to hear, they will ask for a speaker to be louder or turn on their microphone. All right. So this evening we start our annual budget review process. We have quite a few members of the public here to join us this evening. And we'll start with the manager giving us an overview of this budget that's been presented to the City Council last Thursday evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I won't reiterate all of my opening comments because you all heard them last Thursday, but I'll just touch on a few things. The team worked really hard to bring a budget to you this evening that has very little estimated increase on the tax rate. It's raising the municipal portion of the tax rate by 0.49%, so not quite 0.5%. This recommended budget considers the first year of the capital program, which goes from 2023 to 2029. And we have updated the capital program as there's been some modifications since the adoption of the CIP back in March of 2022. And we've made a few changes to ensure that it was in line with fiscal policies as well. In addition, we've adjusted the debt schedules to reflect recent changes for the Winchester Street construction project. The council authorized an increase of bonding for Winchester Street in the amount of $584,000. So that added an additional interest expense to the operating budget that you have before you tonight by $9,490. And in addition to that, since the approval of the CIP, we've also had the Thompson Road project brought before you, and you approved the design for that project in the amount of $210,000, which was taken from unallocated fund balance. That is a project that will need to be included in the CIP during the next update. And then I've talked about, and you've heard the city engineer talk about the market for goods and services changing, and while the city has been aggressively pursuing grants, and I would say have been pretty darn successful at it, the widespread access to federal funding sources has created an increase in demand for both contractors and supplies, and this demand has begun driving up costs. Recent projects are being bid substantially above estimates, which is why we had to come before you for the Winchester Street project. And some projects are generating little interest. Sometimes we get only one bidder on a substantial project in the community. In addition, supply chain issues are impacting access to operating supplies and needed supplies for various projects. For example, the Wells Garage project that we were anticipating doing some repairs on this construction season will likely have to be pushed off because of a delay in the epoxy material that's required for that project. The budget includes all city revenues associated with state municipal aid as we know them right now. The legislature hasn't done their work, and so hopefully they'll add some additional revenue, but it has the most conservative estimate in the budget at this time. In addition, the tax rate estimates are based on a projection of no increase in the tax base. We know that's not going to be the case, but that is the most conservative estimate. And at this point in the city's overall tax rate process, both the school and county have adopted their budgets, setting the education and the county portions of the overall tax rate. Considering tax rate projections provided during their adoption of those budgets and the recommended city budget, the total property tax rate is estimated to increase by 3.25% combined. The largest increase is estimated in the school portion of the tax rate, and if you look at the local and the state education portion of the tax rate combined, it is estimated to increase the tax rate by 91 cents for just the school. And that is my general overview. I have also included in the discussion for Thursday's FOP the staffing recommendations coming from the fire staffing committee that has been meeting for several months, and that will be discussed the same night as the fire department.
Any questions? So the next part of this would be the revenue side. The finance director.
First of all, I just want, about that. So first of all, before we begin, I want to make mention that there is an online version of this budget, the FY23 budget, at the city website, www.keenenh.gov/budget. And before I start, there's a couple things I'd like to point out before the departments do their budget presentations this year. And first, I want to say that this will be your last budget coming out of the finance software, Penimation, and formatted in this format that we have for our budget book this year. Next year, we will be doing it out of our new software. So we're excited about doing that for you next year. So can't guarantee it's going to look the same, but I think it will be easier to put together, answer questions, and have all the information that we need at our fingertips. So we are excited about that this evening and moving forward. And property taxes will be processed under the in the new software. So we're excited about that as well. And then I just want to say thank you to Rebecca Landry, who did the covers for both the CIP and the budget book this year. They came out really great, and I just wanted to say, thank you to Rebecca for doing that for us. So. Okay, so I want to start off with a couple other minor mentions in the book. Table of contents this year, we've color-coded it with some yellowish orange colors and blue, and the orange colors represent a link to a revenue page, the blue to expenditure pages, so you get to just see quickly by color. If you want to look at an expenditure report, look for the color blue. You want a revenue report, just look for the color orangish red. All right, so I will start. If we, I just want to do a quick overview beginning on page 2. And this is the area where we just discussed briefly in the budget book about the compliance with fiscal policies that the city manager has talked about at the council meeting and earlier this evening. So pages 2 through 4 provide us with the fiscal policy compliance and the budget for this year. Okay, so pages 5 and 6 provide you with just a summary of information as to what our anticipated changes are in the revenues and the expenditures for FY23. And it's just a little chart that says where we went up and where we anticipate the changes to be. All right, and then pages 10 through 30 provide a great deal of information regarding the general fund budget, which is the general fund is the primary operating fund utilized by the city. It accounts for the majority of the city departments and the functions such as fire, police, ambulance service, maintenance of parks and recs, dog licensing, code enforcement. So this budget covers pretty much all of the operations that each of the citizens in the city of Keene tap into on a regular basis. Okay, and before we get into the revenues, there's one page in here that I always point out every year. It's a summary, and I believe it is on page 10. It's a summary broken down of the city taxes to be raised by department and services that we provide by an average house or home. So you get to see where your tax dollars go and how much of your tax dollars go based on your house revenue. Your house value and what you pay in taxes. And it's a very informative spreadsheet, and I really like it because it just shows you, where your money goes. So, all right, so moving on. So pages 13 through 28 provide you with general fund revenue and expenditures in total, in summary form, and in detail. And it shows you the different departments, their revenues that they earn for the city and put to help reduce the tax basis, or the taxes, and it's done in summary and in detail. And then each of the departments will be going through their department budgets as well as the revenues that they contribute towards the city as well. So, and then finally, page 28, City Manager discussed it briefly about our bonding. And on page 28, you'll find a list of our general fund long-term bonds with issue date, maturity dates, rates, original amount, principal, interest, and the balance as of June 30, 2023. And it also has the new anticipated debt for FY23 based on the CIP projects that were in the CIP that the council voted and accepted back in March. And the new schedules are in here as well, and the budget's been adjusted accordingly to reflect the new interest on these bonds. So, any questions so far?
Questions for the finance director?
Okay.
Mike, if you have, you're gonna have to shout out because I've got no picture of you or your hand waving at me. You speak up.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So,
All right. So moving on, our next section is the mayor and city council.
I'm just gonna try and get these monitors working for you.
First.
Oh, she was here. I'll sponsor it. What is it? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
So I'll go.
Before you.
Yeah, I can go through the changes of the mayor and council budget if you like. Yeah. Okay. So on page 34 is the mayor and council budget, and that's cost center 0001. The budget is actually down $20,000, which is the result of moving an amount budgeted in FY22 for archiving software to our cost center that we implemented this fiscal year, which is cloud-based software. And because this archiving software is that, we moved it to that. So mayor and council budget is down $20,000 for that. And then those were the only changes.
Anybody have questions? I know you're ready. What do you want?
One question.
All right, good.
I was just curious, so as a complimentary thing, especially during the budget season, we're provided with a meal. And where does that fall under the mayor and council's?
They have a budget line item, mayor's official expense, and I believe that's where we usually, we budget some money to help with the cost of the meals.
Thank you.
Council's official expense, sorry. The next one down, sorry, didn't put the glasses on for that.
Thank you.
All right. So next we go to outside agencies.
And outside agencies are on page 34 and 35. Oh, no.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Natalie Darcy, Human Services Manager. So historically, Human Services has been tasked with taking the lead on outside agency funding. This year, the committee consisted of individuals from Human Services, Finance, and City Council. The committee worked diligently to assure that any organization who wanted to apply for funding had the opportunity to do so. Recommendations for funding are based in part on each agency's response under the following established criteria. The impact on the city if the agency was not in operation. The agency provides a service with direct financial impact on expenditures of city departments. The number and percentage of Keene residents served by the agency. Other local service agencies providing similar services. Percentage of the total budget spent on direct client services. Financial impact in terms of prevention and intervention services that potentially saves future city spending, and demonstrated efforts to cooperate and avoid duplication with other agencies. The process begins with a public notice that was published in the Keene Sentinel inviting agencies to apply, with a deadline for applications being January 19th, 2022. I also reached out to agencies who have previously received funding or have previously applied for funding and attached an application for funding. The committee met via Zoom to discuss the 13 agencies who had applied for funding. The committee then scheduled Zoom meetings with each of the agencies, and the committee then met and made recommendations that were forwarded to the city manager for budget review. Thank you.
Okay, so all the agencies who applied are listed in the budget book. The linear graph is on page 35, and the next 2 pages, 2.5 pages, have a narrative on each of the businesses that's come forward. And the budget as proposed by the city manager for these items is on page 35. So, anyone who would like to speak to any particular item, please come forward. And as we said earlier, so that we can get the record, your name and your address, please, and what agency you represent. Thank you.
I'm Carmen Trafton, the Executive Director of the Samaritans. I just wanted to say thank you for the allocation recommendation. I wanted to say Natalie did a really good job reaching out to agencies. Nothing has really changed in our situation with not receiving funding from the United Way. So if there's any way you can eke out a few more dollars, we'd be super happy. But we never thought you were going to really give us the 13 that we're missing, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? It's a familiar face.
Good evening. I'm Susan Ashworth with Home Healthcare Hospice and Community Services, and I'd like to speak to Meals on Wheels and City Express Transportation and thank the committee for their review. As you know, Meals on Wheels provides a daily nutritious meal to city residents who are homebound and frail, and helping them to stay safe and independent at home, reducing the need for emergency services and other costly interventions like institutionalization. 57,000 meals were delivered in the city last year to 376 residents. Nearly half of them are over the age of 80, 10% are over the age of 90, and our oldest resident lives here in Keene, our oldest participant, at 104 and still able to live independently at home with Meals on Wheels and other services. 70% of those we serve indicate that Meals on Wheels is their main meal of the day, and half say they don't have enough money for food. This is not surprising when we look at the incomes of our participants, which are between 100 and 125% of the poverty level. So we're truly reaching a target audience that needs this service. We feel this will certainly continue to be a need in Keene as our older population grows. Not only are people growing older, but we're seeing more people who have memory loss issues, and it's absolutely critical that they have the meal and the daily safety check in order to remain safe. So we're requesting 36 cents a meal, and we are hoping that you will continue this appropriation, which keeps Keene residents safe in their home. With your permission, I'd also like to address the City Express, which is providing public transportation in the city of Keene. The ridership continues to grow as we emerge from COVID. We provide approximately 20,000 rides a year for people from all walks of life for groceries, medical appointments, getting to all kinds of destinations, work. And this is not only for people who can walk to a bus stop, but we also provide complimentary paratransit for those who need assistance with our wheelchair lift and other mobility aids. We provide services by giving free bus tickets to many other social service agencies in the region. City Human Services, certainly, Monadnock Peer Support, Monadnock Family Services, Division of Health and Human Services, to coordinate to make sure that these clients have mobility to get to other services. We're working actively with the Southwest Regional Planning Commission on some new options for transit in the city of Keene, including microtransit, and looking at our routes to see if they are the most appropriate routes as we emerge from COVID. So the city match is our 50% match that we need in order to gain FTA funds to continue the service. We're asking for that increase because our gas has gone up by 43%, and our CDL drivers, certainly in order to retain them, we needed to give them a slight bump in their wages. So we appreciate your investment in both Meals on Wheels and transportation, and we thank you for your support.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Next one.
Good evening. My name's Mary Jensen, and I'm from the Keene Senior Center. I have to wear the mask because I'm just recovering from COVID, and I don't want to share. I don't expect to have to be sharing tonight, but I just, in an abundance of caution. I took a glance at the budget tonight, and I see that we were recommended for $10,000 of the $15,000 that we had requested. And I wanted to just bring some new details to your attention. We currently have 287 members, and of those, 193 are Keene residents. So we're well on our way to reaching the 250 Keene residents we had hoped to reach this year. We are we offer our seniors an opportunity to be in a location where they are with other seniors, where they can work, where they can be with other seniors in a location where they can sit and have a cup of coffee, they can do exercise, they can work on their mental health and their physical health while being at the senior center. We have partnered with the rec center to offer programming through the super senior program. There's pickleball and there's work through MoCo Arts. Nevertheless, our seniors spend a lot of time at the senior center. So far, since we opened last August, we have had over 5,000 people sign in. Of the people who are members, they have signed in for 5,000 events. That includes exercise, lunches, art classes, art programs, and other cultural, social, and intellectual pursuits. What we most often hear from people is that they're lonely and they would like to be with other people their age. The senior center offers programming that is not offered elsewhere in Keene. It's an opportunity. The rec center offers great programming, but not specifically for seniors. There are lots of social clubs in the area. But the senior center doesn't have drinking, smoking, or gambling, and a lot of people prefer to be in a location where those things are not offered. So our seniors tell us that without the senior center, they would be more lonely. They would have fewer places to go, especially early in the morning. They would not exercise as much as they would. They would not have a chance to be with their peers and to support each other. So I would just request that you can reconsider the amount that's been recommended for the senior center for the full $15,000 so that we can continue to provide the services that the seniors have requested. I note that in other states, senior centers are funded through the state in a way that we do not do here. We raise all of the rest of the money either through low membership fees, which we deliberately keep low to be able to have more people join us. We write grants, we do events, we do what we can, but the $15,000 is a fairly small amount to pay for all that we offer. When I think of what it would cost for the rec center to be able to offer 5,000 events for people to go to, for seniors to go to, I think that would be considerably more money than what we're spending. Thank you very much. And I am, again, Mary Jensen, I think I gave it all. Mary Jensen, 70 Court Street, Keene Senior Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? All right. Next person who would like to come up. All right, don't fight over the microphone now.
Good evening. My name's Sally Millay, 5 Morgan Lane, Keene, New Hampshire. I'm the Executive Director of the Keene Housing Kids Collaborative. We are a non-profit organisation that is building the foundation for successful adulthood for families in low-income households that are struggling to make ends meet, and we help their children or provide access to opportunities and experiences for the children to help them reach their full potential. Most of our children live in Keene. We service Keene Housing, as well as just recently, last year, a new partnership was formed with Southwestern Community Services. 2 of their properties are in Keene, so the number of children that we service have increased. It's a total of nearly 600 children. 80% of those children live in Keene. So I'm here to represent those children, to ask for your support. We've been grateful for the investment that you've given us over the past few years, and we continue to ask for that support. Our families have an average income of $23,000. This doesn't provide a lot for them to help do other than get food on their table. Statistics and research shows that 65% of these children will remain in that income bracket through their adulthood, and we are aiming to help increase their social mobility to change their outcome. Research also indicates that there's a 6,000-hour learning gap between children that we service by the time they get to middle school than their peers from more affluent households. And it is estimated that children from affluent households, that their parents or guardians spend up to $7,000 per year per child on these experiential learning activities that children are able to participate in. Last year, we had 193 children participate in our activities. Prior to the pandemic, 2019 was our peak year. We were founded in 2015 with 270 children participating, which resulted in 786 activities that the youth service programs that they participated in, which accumulated 20,000 hours of activity hours for those children. Our children and our families need this engagement as we come out of the pandemic, both for social engagement and also for their academic progress. The school data is sobering for children in low-income households. 44% of these children are actually receiving special education services, and that's 3 times the district average for them being in having those services provided to them. So there's positive gains for the school district for the intervention that we can provide by having this positive impact on children's lives. We raise around $100,000 that is directly reinvested back into the Keene economy through the different partners that we have. We have around 40 different community partners that we take our children to, and we expect that to continue for 2022. Already this year, we've got 138 children that are engaged in our services. So the investment for the city does make a lot of sense there. The social return on investment is also very heavily researched, that we can help reduce juvenile crime, truancy, enhancing school achievement, reducing tobacco and vaping use, illegal drug use, and the Nobel Prize winner James Heckman has calculated a 13% return on investment for this early childhood intervention. So I thank you for the opportunity to share this more in-depth information about our programming, and we seek your continued support for this year. And I'm going to introduce Ricky Greenwald. She's our board chair.
Hi, everybody. Ricky Greenwald, 98 Peg Shop Road in Keene. I think I know everybody here. I am proud to be the chair of the board for Keene Housing Kids Collaborative. 7 years ago, I had absolutely no knowledge of this organization. I was invited to one of their breakfasts, and Mitch and I went just to have a nice breakfast, and we left two different people. The impact that that breakfast had on me has made just a lasting impact on me. Listening to testimonials from parents and children about how their lives have been positively affected by what we do, it moved me so much that I asked, what can I do? So now, 6 years later, I'm chair of the board. Sadly, I have to go off the board at the end of this year, but it has been a wonderful experience. 7 years ago, this didn't exist. It's the brainchild of Josh Meehan from Keene Housing. It was an idea. He just said, I wonder if we can partner up with agencies in Keene and provide activities for children who would not be able to afford these activities. And the next thing you know, here we are 7 years later, and we're blossoming, but we need help. We are unique, and I want to point out to you, there is nobody like us at all in the state of New Hampshire. We are not modeled after anyone. We came up with the idea, and I'm hoping that there will be other cities that eventually will come to us to see if they can start their own collaboratives. One of the things that I wanted to tell you that makes us very, very unique is that we are in partnership. We have a data sharing agreement with SAU 29, which means that we are privy to confidential data where we can evaluate the quality of what we're doing. And we do quantitative and qualitative research. We have beautiful testimonials from parents and children as to how this has truly changed the lives of children. We also know from looking at the data that children that participate in our activities do much better in school. They're happier socially, emotionally, and in every way, which contributes to a happy family. All right, there's no other way to invest than in our children. They are the future of our community. Obviously, I'm speaking to you with much passion, and that's okay. But I just wanted to let you know that Keene Housing Kids Collaborative has made a lasting impact on children in our community and families. So I'm going to urge you, if you could please match at least what you have given us in the past. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Questions for these folks? All right. Sir, I think in the back corner, you were the next one that wanted to get out there.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I'm Pierre Morton, and I am the chair of the Monadnock Diversity, Equity and Inclusion and Belonging Coalition. I just want to have a moment to say that we are the last stop, historically, in the Underground Railroad. I'm proud of that for the state of New Hampshire. We are the city of Jonathan Daniels. Very proud of that. We are the community that's right next to Amos Fortune, and I'm proud of that. So I want to say thank you for letting me speak briefly today. I want to move forward our proclamation that you all, the City Council, along with the mayor, put forth that said we are a diverse and inclusive city. That was last Juneteenth that proclamation was approved and made by, I believe, you, the City Council. So thank you for that. But now we have to start doing the work of the that was recommended to us by the Racial Justice and Community Safety Ad Hoc Committee that was convened in 2020. And I believe the recommendations were out in 2021. So many of you all are aware of the type of work that was recommended. We're excited to do it. To work with our police departments, which we're doing right now. We have a coalition that is made up of myself, Franklin Pierce University, members of Keene State College, members of the Savings Bank of Walpole, other community members, the hospital as well, Sean LaFrance. And we're all working together to improve the way our city treats one another. We want to become a beloved community. Part of that is what you see here today. All of the people who are the children's organizations, the organizations for the elderly, all of that is so that we can become a more beloved community. But we can't do that without fixing, I don't even want to say fixing, without addressing some of the inequities that happen because of our sexual orientation, because of our age, because of our income, and yes, because of our ethnicity. So those recommendations were put forth, and we are in the process of fundraising for that. We have some fundraising going on in July with some of the grant opportunities that my friend at Savings Bank of Walpole will allude to in just a moment. But the number one thing we really need to do right now is we need to hire a director, a multicultural director that will coordinate when City Manager Elizabeth Dragon said, oftentimes you only get one bid, right? We want to hire someone who understands how to go out into the community and to widen that bid so that people of color, LGBTQ, women-owned businesses, small businesses can come to this community and bid on those contracts. We also want to be able to support the community businesses that have signed the pledge or that are getting ready to sign the pledge to be a more diverse workplace. What that means is hiring someone, a multicultural director, it's $55,000 over 2 years, it's $110,000, which we're trying to raise. So those are the numbers. That can come in and say, look at your job descriptions and connect you with the NAACP, with Chicanos por la Causa, with our indigenous community, so that our job descriptions will get out into the community, the wider community, so that everyone has an opportunity and a chance to succeed. So I will close with this. I love this community. I've been here since 2019. Couldn't have picked a better place with better people. My sons are living here quite well. They are Puerto Rican and Italian, and they also love this place. But there's still more work for us to do. There are times when my color and their color gets in the way of the way we're perceived or treated. And I want to change that. I want to fix that. You've already said that we're a more diverse city. You got the recommendations. You did the ad hoc committee. We're asking for your support and donations from the city. And I will let Mark Bowden continue this. Thank you. Yes. I'm sorry, Mark.
Pierre, thank
Yes.
you. We've had a great conversation before tonight, and I really appreciate all the work that you're doing on this. I do have a couple clarifying questions. This coalition is a regional coalition, so you're talking about doing this work in all of the communities
That's
around
right.
us? And
Yes. Monadnock region, forgive
Okay.
me. Yes.
And you are seeking the same sort of support from those communities as well?
Absolutely. We're not, yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having us tonight. It's wonderful to talk about this. It's fun to talk about this because it's so important and they're so full of hope right now. I'm Mark Bowden. I'm the president of Savings Bank of Walpole. So for us, and I think we say this a lot, this isn't just a dot on the map for us. This isn't like one location that SBW has. I mean, this is our home. This is where we live. This is this is the place that we love and we're committed to. And this is where all our staff are. This is where our board is. This is all we talk about, is this region. And it's a wonderful region. There's so many great things going on, and hearing from these organizations. I know I came in on Ricky, and that's a great organization. I love that organization. But this community needs to be better. And there's so many things that we're missing in. And when we look at the future of this region, because I think you have to look at it as a region, it's too small to look at individually, without becoming and being viewed, and you have to be viewed as it, but you have to become it first, as a welcoming community. I'm not sure what the future holds here. I mean, we talk about, business could expand if we had more staff and there were more people living here. There's a whole lot of people that don't even consider moving here. I mean, they just don't view New Hampshire or these communities as welcoming, and we need to get started in it. Because what we need this community to be all it can be. We need it to be robust. We need it to be vibrant. So with this coalition, I've been involved through my career in a lot of diversity initiatives, some of them very successful, a lot of them just like everybody else's. And there was hope, and it faded because it didn't build on the right platform. In this one, we started as a group of us were meeting at the hospital. Don Caruso and Kendall Lane was involved in it, and then George, and we had a group, but we were just talking. And then when you guys put together that racial justice committee, the report came out, we were like, here it is. This is how we need to get going. So we got the band back together. The group that you guys put together disbanded, as ad hoc committees do. We brought them back together. And we started meeting through the summer, 7 o'clock every week. We're meeting, and we said, to do this right, we need a good foundation. The Y has stepped up to be the hosting organization for it, so we have nonprofit status. Drew the Y, the bank, kicked in $10,000 of startup money, to get this going in terms of collateral materials and to build the right foundation. I will tell you that we have all these different committees, and there's a really good brochure that we should make sure everybody gets. I'm leading a business advisory committee. We've been going slow. I just scheduled a meeting for later this month. I have 30 business leaders from throughout the Monadnock region, as part of it. And that's without even trying. I mean, we'll have 100 businesses, involved in this pretty quickly. And everybody has the commitment, but nobody has had the know-how in how to do it. And I really believe that we're going to get there. And Pierre talked about, we're starting with this fundraising effort. Well, but we're not waiting for it. I mean, we're limited in what we can do, but we're starting to get together. We're going to start surveying and inventorying what the needs of the business community and organizations throughout the region are, and we can start acting on and start activating all these people that have always been full of good intention. And I know all of you are full of good intention. Everyone sitting here is full of good intention. But you know what's happened since George Floyd's murder? 15 states have passed restrictive voting laws, that aren't so veiled in their attempt to restrict voting from underrepresented populations. How many states have passed restrictive education laws, since then? So I come out of meetings with this coalition full of hope. I really believe that there's something here that's not only going to impact this region, but it's replicable. And we know that. And we know it's replicable throughout the state, and I think others have started to hear that too. But, there's so many other things that are negative, but this gives me hope. It really does give me hope in it. So I hope that, the city getting behind it, and we are reaching out. I do have a number of people from Peterborough involved, and we're going to start reaching out there. I think once we start showing things, I think businesses are going to get behind it, and we'll be able to go further. But I think this is going to help us get towards, not to, because it's a really long journey. It's going to help us get towards who we want to be as a community, and something that I think we'll all be proud of. So happy to take any questions.
And Keene needs to lead in this.
Not a question, a comment for the council. And Keene loves to lead, Pierre. So you're probably looking at your book saying, where is this? What page is this? It's not in there because there was no request in time for the budget process. When Pierre contacted me, the budget was already off to the printer. So you don't have anything in your book. This would be something you would consider as part of any amendments you would make that would be brought forward to the full city council.
All right, who else would like to come up?
name is Ellen Avery. I'm a former resident of Keene. I now live in the home of Amos Fortune and Hannah Davis. I live in Jaffrey. I'm currently serving as the Executive Director for Community Volunteer Transportation Company, otherwise known as CVTC. We provide no-fee transportation to those without access to transportation because of their age, either end, their ability, their economic situation, or a life circumstance. We serve 34 towns, AKA all of the Monadnock region. And this is our first request to the city of Keene for support. And when I was filling out the application, there's a question. So how does your organization directly benefit the citizens of Keene? Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that we're a partner with probably your largest transportation provider outside of the school system, which is HCS. And for the longest time, they provide, through City Express, through the Friendly Bus, through their paratransit program, through the Wednesday van up to Lebanon and White River Junction. We have an agreement. And CVTC, where CVTC comes in to serve the residents of Keene, is that we take people to those specialty medical appointments, mostly medical, outside of Keene. That's something that HCS does not do. That's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. And so CVTC comes in behind HCS and takes those trips for people that aren't lucky enough to have a Wednesday appointment up at Dartmouth Hitchcock. Let's see, in 2021, we had 54 rides that went up to Lebanon. And we have 21 other sites in the application in Manchester, Concord, Boston, Portsmouth, but within a 2-hour radius. So we're really augmenting what HCS already does. And the reason why I'm here was some urging from our board is because the numbers of people that we serve, and that's how we base our how we come up with a figure to ask for. The numbers in Keene were growing for us, and so it was a good time for us to come to you all as a partner, a transportation partner, because we served 88 people just in the city of Keene, and we rank ordered our towns that we serve, and Keene came in at number 8 out of 34. So you're right up there as far as usage, and that's how we determine what the need is for people that are needing our services. We don't collect a fare. We're not able to because of the FTA funding that we receive, which is fine. Some of our riders are very generous with donations. And we have 57 volunteer drivers, and we never closed our doors during COVID. So we're here. We've been in business since late 2008, and I'm very happy to be here to present our case to all of you for a donation of $1,500 to CBTC for our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Ellen? Thanks. We do have one. Ellen? We do have one.
Question.
Do you provide your service through HCS? Does HCS actually hire or use the service of CVTC to take people or residents of Keene to Dartmouth, Hitchcock, and Lebanon?
No, what they do is they refer, when people would get, if someone calls HCS hoping to, looking for a ride up there, I mean, I get calls all the time for Keene to Keene trips. The staff at HCS refer them to us, and so then the person calls us. Is that an answer to your question, or
Sure.
is it okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Who else wants to speak with us?
Good evening. My name is Keith Tebow. I represent Southwestern Community Services, a local community action agency that serves Cheshire and Sullivan counties, and been around since 1965. I really want to thank the community for their ongoing support. We've been supporting our organization in a variety of ways for many decades, and we're proud of that relationship we have with the city. I think we have a good, strong working relationship with the city on a number of different levels, and we're proud of that. This is what we call our town funding effort. Every year we calculate how much direct assistance Southwestern brings to the city of Keene, the town of Alstead, the city of Claremont, and every other community. And every year, every one of those communities does support us. What we do is we calculate how much direct assistance we gave to each individual community, then we ask back 1% of that funding, up to $10,000. So Keene sort of gets a deal on this because we cap it at $10,000. But in the last year, we provided over $4.5 million of direct assistance to Keene residents. And that comes in basically real basic needs. We have a Head Start program that helped almost 36 families in the region with a full year's program. We had a WIC nutrition program that assisted 275 different households, gave away about over $225,000 in vouchers for food and other basic needs. Our energy assistance program, which I think is the one that might be the most germane to the city of Keene because it helps to blunt the requests to your Human Services Department for help with home heating fuel. And we've assisted 596 households last year, provided $699,000 to local fuel vendors on behalf of Keene residents, those 596 households. I do know that in most communities, when a resident of that community comes and asks for assistance with home heating assistance, one of the first questions they're asked is, have you been to Southwestern? We're a real good first line of defense there because we do have pretty significant resources to distribute. Every year we distribute over $4 million between the two counties directly to fuel vendors on behalf of probably their most difficult or disadvantaged clients and customers. So we sort of bring a lot of, that's an economic benefit to the community, and that's something that SCS tries to, and this whole compilation of data is what's intended to do, which is to show the economic benefit that we bring into the community, which our budget is $19 million a year, and the large share of that goes directly to different households throughout the two counties. So we're really pleased with what we've done in the last year, in the last 50+ years that SCS has been around, and we're happy to be here and to be able to provide the income supports primarily and basic needs, assistance with basic needs for our most neediest residents. So take any questions anyone might have, but we thank you again for your ongoing perennial support for this program.
Thanks, Keith. Questions for Keith?
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. Who else would like to come up? We good? All right. Well, I guess we've covered everybody. Anybody else that may want to make some comments about this portion of the budget is welcome to mail it into the city clerk's office. Will get to us. And our process will go on for the next several weeks, or you can speak with one of the counselors that you know or you run into in the grocery store. Thank you for coming this evening.
Okay.
We're back to the finance director and the city manager.
Okay, unclassified is on page 39 and 40. And here you will find the budget for community-funded events. That's cost center 0003. Every year, the clerk's office sends out request applications, and this year it was in late December with usually a return deadline of about 30 days later. So the, excuse me. So the due date this year for the community-funded events applications was January 24th, 2022. And this year, the community-funded events budget has an increase of $16,793, which includes the return of the Keene Pumpkin Festival and the acceptance of the Taste of Keene as a community-funded event this year. So that was the increase for the budget for this year. Other items included in this cost center include the Partner City Planning and Zoning Board, Marketing and Development, Engineering, Energy and Climate Commission, Conservation, Historical District, and Heritage Commission. So all of those items are funded in the unclassified section of the budget.
In addition, in this section of the budget, you'll see the second payment for the branding and communication effort. We have a contract that spans over 2 fiscal years, and that's the second payment for that contract.
Just a quick clarifying question on the Taste of Keene. You said it is a community event now. It's only been run once, correct? And this would be the second one?
Yeah.
So therefore it.
Just to clarify, we've included it as a potential community event. You have not yet decided that. This will be their second event, which will qualify them. That event will happen in our current fiscal year. Since this budget is for next fiscal year, we've anticipated if you do not approve them as a community event, you would be able to reduce this line by 10,000. Not 10, yeah, 10,000. Right?
Okay.
All right, folks that want to speak to, go ahead,
Real
Mike,
quick.
first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we're going to go in any depth on Taste of Keene, I should recuse myself just as the person who put in that request. If we end up going any depth in that.
Okay, we're good on that, because we're not going to vote tonight, so, but.
Okay.
All right, those of you who are with us and want to speak to community events?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Alan Stroshine, 27 Salisbury Road here in Keene. I'm the race director for the Clarence DeMar Marathon and a very proud member of the Keene Elm City Rotary Club that puts on the marathon. We're in the middle of planning for the 44th running of the Clarence DeMar Marathon this year. However, we've only been a community event since 2012 when the city partnered with us as we took over this event to really make it into a true community event. We took 1 year off in 2020 because of COVID-19, and I am eternally grateful for the city's enthusiastic support to allow us to come back last year, despite the fact that we were still in the midst of a pandemic. We made a number of adjustments, and through partnership with the city and emergency planning, very proud of the event we pulled off. Despite lack of crowds at the finish line, we seemed to fill up our streets with supporters, so it was a wonderful event. We're looking forward to this event. We're grateful for the city's partnership financially, but more importantly, hands-on with the various committees and departments that we work with to make this event as safe as possible for not only our runners who come from all over the country, but our community at large during that race weekend. So again, I'm grateful for the partnership we've established. You guys have helped make this event even better than it was 10 years ago, and I'm grateful for the continued support and would entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions? Mike? Good? Thanks, Alan. Kevin?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Watterson. I live at 10 Westview Avenue, Keene, New Hampshire. Tonight I'm here as the president of the Keene Swamp Bats. We're about to enter our 25th anniversary season, and specifically, we inherited the city's fireworks on July 4th about 15 years ago. And at the time, we said, we'll give it a shot. It is a massive event to put roughly 5,000 people at Alumni Field, to get them in safely for 4 hours, and then more importantly, to hold the fireworks and then exit safely. The community event funding has been meaningful to us. It allows us really to I would say, operate in a more professional capacity, and it's also brought us closer to fire and police. And their over the years, their guidance has really, I think, assured safety be the number one variable. Last year, we had our first rain out in 19 years, and we moved it to the end of the year. I'm often asked, do we have a rain date? Do we do rain insurance? And the answer always is no. We've looked at all the possibilities, and they just don't work. So, again, fire and police and their what they've allowed us to do by not having a rain date and allowing us also to find that extra date, it's been immense, because it's a meaningful night to the city. It's all about family, elderly, and we will continue to do this until someone says they'd like to take it over. But thank you for your funding. Any questions?
Any questions for Kevin? I think he's looking for somebody to take it over, so. You gonna sign up? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Jan, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Good to see you all. I'm Jan Manwaring. I live at 50 Belmont Avenue, and I am here representing Pathways for Keene. I'm secretary of the board. We actually are having a race committee meeting right now, which is why you saw Ted McGreer leave. He is our race committee chair. I think he'll be here tomorrow night. I won't be. Anyway, this is our 20th annual 4 on the 4th. And as Kevin just said, I think we've had one rainy time, which is really amazing. So our mission, as you know, is to use the funding that we raise to help the trails in the city of Keene. And this year we're focused on the bridge that's going to go over 101, the Prowse Bridge. And we're working real hard. We have a $50,000 goal, and we're working hard to reach that goal. So we appreciate being a community event and having that status. Thank you. Questions?
Just good to see you.
Oh, thank you.
You're missed.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to leave and go get that other committee.
All right, thanks. Young lady?
I shall take the next call. Hi, Elizabeth Sayer, 290 Main Street, Keene. It's nice to see all of you, always a pleasure. I'm here representing the Kiwanis Club of Keene, and I'd just like to say thank you very much for your continued support of our tree lighting event. And I'll echo Kevin's words, we also think it's a wonderful family event for the city of Keene. So I just wanted to extend our thanks and appreciation, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Great to see you all. Hope
Thank you.
COVID stays away. Goodbye.
All right. Looks like we've got everybody. Go ahead.
Just one additional clarification in the calculation for community events. I did apply a $10,000 maximum.
All right, so we're back on track with departments. And we are at the capital appropriations.
Yes, and that's on page 41. The budget for capital appropriations at cost center 0004 has been revised based on the change that we had to make with the FY23 portion of the CIP capital and capital plan. That includes some of the changes that we made to make sure that we were in compliance with fiscal policy. And there's an explanation on the bottom of page 42. There's a footnote that just summarizes again one more time the changes that we made that the city manager has mentioned several times. So
employee benefit.
Okay, this is cost center 00081, and this can be found on page 44. There is an increase of $158,946, and this actually represents union contracts that are currently under negotiation and the related benefit costs. As of June 30, 2022, all but one union contract will expire, and they are all currently under negotiations. And I can turn this over to Elizabeth Fox, Human Resources Director and Assistant City Manager, for more info.
Good evening. Beth Fox, Assistant City Manager, Human Resources Director. So employee benefits is an area where we consolidate employee-related costs that aren't allocated elsewhere for a variety of reasons, in addition to capturing COLA. There are just some some employee benefit-related costs. It's just easier to manage if we budget for them collectively. So you'll find in this cost center things like the life insurance that we provide for all regular employees, full-time employees, or those working over 30 hours a week, disability insurance, funding to support costs related to the city safety program that might be medically driven, the wellness program. In addition, this cost center area funds training, it funds tuition assistance, it funds parking space rental for city employees because the parking fund requires that support when we use their parking spaces. And then finally, included in this cost center is the return of a cost center that was taken out of the human resources budget actually a few years ago in 2017, I believe, that supported the costs of consulting services for labor issues. And for a period of time, the city attorney was nice enough to let me pal around with and dip into his funds, but with some changes in his organization and the return of the assistant city attorney, it was deemed more appropriate to separate these out at this point. So you'll see a new line item in this cost center, includes the funds of about $20,000. That considers the fact that we have a number of open agreements, as Ms. Howe mentioned, and it also considers the fact that we occasionally have other personnel issues that require us to bring in outside resources, outside counsel, and those sorts of things. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, one question. I was looking under tuition assistance. Is there any cap on how much tuition assistance is given?
Tuition assistance is actually a portion of the budget which decreased this year. We had fewer employees advance those requests. We, some years will have a cap, and it usually relates to the number of courses we support. And typically when we have a cap, it's because we have a lot of requests and we're trying to help everyone. This year we did not have to put a cap on the number of courses. Employees, frankly, for an employee to take more, even with online classes, to take more than 4 or 5 courses a year is really difficult. These people are working full-time. So as they work towards their degrees, it can take a number of years, more years than I think many of them would like for them to achieve their educational objectives.
I think it's a good benefit to offer, and I just was curious because I saw it go down, and I was like, boy, it's something I would take advantage of for sure.
Well, for some reason, and I can't speak to the specifics. Perhaps people just right now weren't, when we were doing the budget, weren't ready to make those commitments across the organization. But for some reason this year, we did not see as many requests.
Thank you.
So risk management, back to you.
Okay, cost center is 00082, risk management. That shows an increase of $16,748. This is where the city budgets for their general liability and the airport liability insurances. It's just a very small cost center with those 2 items.
Questions? None? City Manager.
Thank you. My budget is on page 49, and really the only change to the budget is related to a stipend for an assistant emergency management director position. In the past, Chief Howard worked really closely with Director Bloomquist to fill the emergency management role, but COVID taught us that that role could be much more time-consuming than originally planned. And so while there's a small stipend for the emergency management director, there currently wasn't a stipend for the assistant, and this would institute that. That's the $1,500 for the year, and then the associated retirement and Social Security. So those are the changes. Now, not reflected in the budget, and wouldn't be reflected necessarily in this section of the budget, but I'll just mention, I mentioned in my budget memo 2 changes to the salary schedule that will be advancing, and certainly we can discuss that more once the salary schedule comes forward to the council, but those 2 changes will be related to putting in place a deputy city manager position with the retirement of our economic development director, special projects, and reallocating those funds for that position to the deputy city manager position, and then adjusting the roles of the individuals who are fulfilling the assistant city manager role. And in addition to that, the council has spent a lot of time talking about the need for better communications with the public and with the communities and the surrounding areas. And so in this budget, salary schedule changed, not in the budget itself, but in the salary schedule, there will be the addition of a communications and marketing position, and that will be accompanied with the elimination of the assistant IT director position and the reallocation of those funds to that role, as well as many of the duties that are currently in the IT department right now. So that you'll see that later, not in the section of the budget, but when the salary schedule comes forward.
Questions? All right. Mr. City Attorney.
It will take me a minute.
It's gimpy.
Unfortunately, my 25-year-old brain and my 60-something-year-old body don't communicate very well all the time. So, I apologize for groaning a little bit.
So anyway, thank you very much, Tom Mullins, City Attorney, here for my budget, which generally is a fairly short one. There are, as you can see in it though, this year there was a fairly significant change based upon the authorization from the City Council last year to provide for an assistant city attorney, and I can't thank you all enough for that. It's already, she has already proven to be just a wonderful addition to the city at this point, and she is in the back for anybody who does not know. Amanda Palmera, this is one more time I will introduce you. So that change is primarily reflected at the top half of the budget with respect to the addition of the salary for the assistant position and other benefits associated with that. You can see that under the 2022-2023 manager recommended portion. You can see those changes. Other than that, and as you know, we essentially don't have a lot of control over that. They just tell us what those numbers are and we plug them in. So, and then the second half of the budget, most of it is pretty much the same, although in order to have funds available for training and other things, you will see that the training lines have changed a little bit, meetings and dues, because we do provide for the Bar Association dues that are associated with it. There are training requirements associated with that for us to maintain our licenses, and those are reflected in the budget. Otherwise, most of it is fairly flat, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Thank you very much.
You don't have to walk all the way back. You can.
No, I'm walking
Yeah.
out the door at this point.
And the city clerk.
Good evening. So just as a way of introduction, our budget came in within the base numbers supplied by their finance department. We're very fortunate and very thankful that the city manager supported several supplemental requests, some one-time requests, others added to the baseline budget, and again, very appreciative of that. Our fiscal year objectives this year were scheduled to run a state primary and a state general election this fall. And one that we've never really had as a goal, and it's really a quite important goal to me, is to verify the integrity and the completeness of several what I call permanent record series. They include the city charter, rules of order, all of our zoning amendments, road layouts. Those are documents that over time, through actions of the voters in the election with ballot changes or charter changes, and obviously actions by the city council, various executed documents are created after the council's action. The purpose of this exercise is to audit the completeness of those record series and to create finding aids so that upon my retirement, someone can easily find what I always call all those needles in the haystack. So that's probably going to be an exercise. It's going to take a little bit of time, probably more than this fiscal year to complete, but it's going to be having a long-standing value to the organization. We're also continuing to migrate the meeting data from our Novus agenda management to our new civic clerk. That it did not go as all of the contractors had promised, so we're doing a lot of backfilling of that information so that all of those years of electronic agendas are available for searching purposes. Another one that's rather active right now is to look at the licensing chapter. Over the years, we have identified several areas that really need to have some review as to whether they really are appropriate and really serve the needs of the public and the organization. Various types of licenses, sidewalk cafes, obstructions on the sidewalk, those types of things. So we're continuing to do that review. We're actually in tandem with the city attorney's office and our economic development special services director, who's also doing changes to chapter 40, the licensing chapter. So those will be coming to for PLD in the very near future. I think we actually start with a parklet discussion this tomorrow evening. Another one is the civic clerk application. The agenda management one also has a module for boards and commissions. We'll be populating that database in the next several months, and that will help us better organize and our board members and actually have them posted simultaneously to the webpage, which right now we do the work in various ways and always are cross-checking to make sure all of our member terms are in sync with each other, and oftentimes we find it might be a little bit off. So very excited about deploying that module of the application. And then the last one is the Record Center. So we're a little concerned with the capacity of the Record Center in terms of those records that are scheduled for destruction. We have a statute that gives us the sort of the retention period of all the various kinds of record series we might have. But there is sort of a tendency of departments when it's time to destroy a record, they're a little hesitant to say, pull the trigger and let us destroy it. And that has sort of created quite a few records that really do need to be reviewed in the archives rooms and the Record Center. So that will be a project that we're going to be trying to push hard, that departments spend the time. If there's value in a record to retain it beyond the retention period, that's perfectly fine. But we need to have people take some time to review their holdings. And if there's no value, let's dispose of the record appropriately. So those are our goals for the year, and we're very excited for them. Again, appreciation to the manager for our supplemental funding request.
Questions?
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
and good evening.
City Assessor.
Good evening, Dan Langell, City Assessor. You'll see my budget begins on page 64 and goes through page 68. With the revaluation now behind us, we're kind of moving on towards this, our regular, more normal business that we take part of in between the revaluations. Our budget's pretty straightforward. It's mostly staff. The cost is mostly staff-driven. You'll see that from last year's approved budget to this year's approved budget, there's a decrease of about $53,000. Mostly this is because the department's still in the transition process, where prior we had 4 staff members and we're moving to 3 full-time staff members. Other than that, the operating expenses are pretty minor, no significant changes there, no supplemental requests. So I'll be happy to take any questions the committee may have.
Go ahead.
Hi, so you reduced your staff by 1. Are there plans to add a position or a different type of position?
Not at this time. We're going to try to maintain the 3 staff members. The main reason why we've been able to do that is because we have moved a lot of stuff online. Our property records, our mapping system, applications. So we're trying to still provide the same amount of service, if not better service and more service. We're just trying to take advantage of the technology that we have available to us today.
Thank you.
But you do face some retirements this year, don't you?
We do, yes. So that was partly accounted for in last year's budget. So we're still having a plan to take care of those retirements and to replace them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to do the talking on this one. I'm actually introducing for the first time in public my new assistant finance director that took very long time to find, but I think we found the perfect one. He has stepped up to the plate with this computer conversion process, and we're very pleased. So Rob, this is Rob Constable. So he's going to be presenting the finance budget this evening.
So the real test is to change the software. That's the real test.
Well, that's if we end up with a finance, yes, it'll be successful if we still have a staff.
Yes, that is the test. Well, good evening. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Rob Constable. I'm the new Assistant Director of Finance. As Mary said, I'll be going through the budget for finance today, which is located on page 69 to 80. As you can see, the brunt of the budget for finance is staffing. And if you look at the 23 budget compared to the 22 budget, the personnel costs are actually going down by about $33,000 or 1%. The reason for the reduction is that there's an employee that has opted out of the city health plan, so therefore it's funded elsewhere from a different company. So there was some savings to be had there. There's also the revenues are reflected, and I know Mary had spoke about this earlier, but in the budget book on page 75 is the revenues that come through the budget area, and you'll see that the revenues are actually down compared to 2022, but when you exclude the debt service or the capital bond sales, the revenues are actually flat year over year. And Natalie will be speaking to the Human Resources Department, and just, I know we might have some new members. The Finance Department is really, in my opinion, the core of the city, because everything that happens in this book goes through finance. We touch everything. We buy everything. We pay for everything. We pay our employees. So finance is very important to the organization. We have the accounting department. We have a purchasing department, payroll. Very good group of people. I've been here since September, and the staff is very good, very dedicated. And as mentioned earlier, and I'm glad Dan leads into this, as we just mentioned, we want to implement a new software going into this year called Munis. We're into the mix of doing that. The first stage of that is to get our preliminary tax bills issued, hopefully within a couple weeks here. Been working closely with Dan and Mary Alter downstairs, who's also retiring this year. She's been a tremendous help with this effort. Come July, we will also be transitioning over to our new GL. This provides an opportunity for the city to restructure the GL, clean up our data. As Dan mentioned on the assessing side, how much stuff can we get in the system? Patty also mentioned that we want to be able to electronically capture a lot of things so we don't have all these hard copies. So a lot of this will help us streamline paperwork and also have workflow where it's all done electronically. So again, I think this is a huge opportunity for the city to reassess how we do things procedurally and also from a paper perspective. So we're moving ahead with that. Like I said, July 1st, we go to the new GL. We're also going to bring over our general billing for like solid waste and those types of things. In January of 2023, we'll be going over with our new payroll as well as the HR side of the business. And then next June, we'll be moving over the utility billing for sewer and water. So it's a big push for the organization, for the city, but there's been a great effort by all. And beginning the first week of June, we will be pulling in other departments for training. So you'll probably hear some feedback on that. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have regarding the budget.
Questions?
Okay, thank you.
None from our, no? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Yeah, Human Services is another division that we have in finance. So Natalie's going to just briefly talk about her budget this evening as well.
Natalie Darcy, Human Services Manager. Pardon me. Human Services, a division of the Finance Department, is responsible for the day-to-day administration of general assistance. General assistance is administered in accordance with the written approved City of Keene General Assistance Guidelines. General assistance in accordance with RSA 165 includes assistance with eligible basic needs such as rent, mortgage, utilities, prescriptions, medication, cremation assistance, home heating fuel, and homeless assistance while providing excellent professional customer service. This past year, because the New Hampshire Emergency Rental Assistance Program, otherwise known as NERAP, the need for rent, electric, and home heating fuel were at a minimum. Human Services has spent, however, considerable time, effort, and financial resources assisting the homeless, individuals, and families in the Keene area. In addition to money spent on homeless shelters, Human Services has spent approximately an additional $45,000 in hotels and motel expenses this fiscal year. To date, Human Services has also seen since July 1st about 100 individuals who have applied for homeless assistance. Human Services is a part of the mapping process to better coordinate services between agencies in regards to housing and servicing homeless needs. This project aims to improve practices in promoting housing stability, homeless prevention, and cross-agency communication, identifies program policy overlaps and gaps to inform next steps, and align resources to maximize benefit to the community residents facing homelessness. Human Services has been meeting weekly with area shelters and attend and participate in the monthly Greater Keene Homeless Coalition meetings and other agencies that provide services such as mental health, substance misuse, and other services to help families and individuals succeed. It is always our mission to keep individuals and families in their homes, especially in a time when there is a 0.6% vacancy rate of area apartment inventory. When an individual family does present as homeless following an eviction, we take action to find that individual family a place to stay, whether it be shelter or hotel assistance. We work with clients to move them along in the process and attempt to leave shelter hotel as quickly as possible and find more permanent housing. Human Services is also working with other area welfare directors from other towns to assure that the proper town is assisting the needs of their residents in absorbing those costs. Going forward this next fiscal year, the need for general assistance will increase as NERAP funding will be wrapping up at the end of July. In addition to the need for rent and electric, the cost of home heating fuel has the potential skyrocket, and the need for homeless assistance will continue to grow. As always, we handle each case the best we can under the law, under unique and difficult circumstances. Happy to take any questions.
Questions? Go ahead.
3 questions. So you mentioned 45,000 towards hotels for homeless. Would that fall under the account for shelter services or under rents?
It's under rents.
And is there a way to sort of break down, like, does rents also include mortgage payments? Like
It
on
does.
people's houses? Yeah. And for heating fuel, like, I'm thinking with Southwestern having that, like,
They have their fuel assistance program.
yeah, so why would we need to be helping? Wouldn't we just refer people to them
Well,
for
once
heating?
the fuel assistance ends, typically early in the season, because they're getting their money, I would say around the end of November, early December. So many of the times their funding allotment has expired and they need assistance. In addition, because they do not get funding before December 1st, the time period between October 15th and December 1st, individuals do come for assistance.
Okay, and then my last question is under burial and transport. Like, what kind of transport? I mean, we're talking about like HCS and other services that are offered. Like, when would the city be providing transportation to an individual or a family or?
We provided transportation to an individual who was a Keene resident and was in a Manchester shelter who was being sheltered back in the Keene area and requested help with that. We also, for elderly residents who were not able to get assistance with the bus, we were able to bring them from one motel to another motel, who wasn't able to walk.
Is that, it sounds like it's unusual circumstances. Like,
They are. They're few and far between.
Yeah, okay. And then burial-wise, like, is that, if somebody can't afford to have their relative buried, the city pays for that?
Yes.
And is that like, with, there's a state law where we need to house the homeless. Is that also true about,
We have an allowable level of assistance of $1,100 per burial. The Cremation Society of New Hampshire works with us and accepts that $1,100 as full payment.
and do we have like a specific area in the cemetery that's for people that can't afford a lot or a stone or something?
Well, that doesn't come up very often. We just had one particular case in which we were able to help with a plot under the burial heading.
Thank you.
Okay. Please.
Not a question, but a comment. I want to give Natalie a lot of credit. She has been doing a great job with the department and really trying to navigate some of the homeless issues in our community, being very proactive with the welfare directors in the area around us, and partnering with our shelters. And so I really just wanted to publicly recognize all of Natalie's efforts.
Thank you.
Good evening. Yes. Assistant City Manager, HR Director, Beth Fox. I am here to review with you the Human Resources submittal, which begins on page 81. I want to, I guess, first start with probably stealing a little of City Manager type thunder, but I want to make sure that you folks realize that it is a privilege to work with the kind of people that we have supporting our city. We have some of the most talented, dedicated, enthusiastic group of employees that, at least in my career, I've had a chance to work with, and they are really what makes us be successful. So in HR, they are in large part what we focus on. We don't provide a lot of external services, but we work very hard to support the employees, to support the departments. As we've talked about this evening, we have lots of departments going through transitions, and we've been fortunate. We have a lot of employees that have worked hard and developed themselves, and we've been able to move people forward and give them new experiences and new opportunities, and that's a great place for the city to be. We've also been, I think, very fortunate that we've been, although I can't deny we have places that we struggle, we have been successful in attracting talent from away. Perhaps the pandemic has been a little bit of a blessing in that regard for us, filling some of the positions that are more difficult to fill within our regional market. So HR this past year, we when I was here before you last year, I was really looking forward to thinking that all aspects of dealing with the pandemic were going to be in my rearview mirror. It did hang on a bit more than I really hoped, and it has taken a bit more energy out of our operations this year than I expected. But we are really looking forward and excited to for the challenges and the opportunities that the new software is going to present for the department. And when the city invested back in 1999 in their software system, I think the concept of being able to collect information about HR-related issues within a database was just completely left off the table. I'm not positive, and Councilor Powers could answer this right off for me. I don't know that the city had an HR department in 1999, so it could have been that we weren't at all at the table. Yes, 1999 we did, but it was probably relatively new, I suspect. Yeah, so relatively new, and my friends in finance. Yeah. My friends in finance, created a system that worked great to manage a lot of the financial aspects of employees, but it's always lacked when it came to managing the kinds of things that HR is interested in being able to retain. So that's a pretty exciting effort. We're expecting we'll be working hard over the next 6 months, very closely with finance to make sure that we're ready to implement both the payroll components, and then I think we'll probably have a rolling implementation for some of the other things. We can't turn it, we just can't do everything all at once on a certain day, but payroll will be important to hit our target. As I said, it's been a very, very busy year in HR. The budget proposed met the manager's fiscal policy, fiscal objective given to departments. The changes in the HR budget this year are primarily attributable to some staffing adjustments that were made in the budget last year, providing for the ability to have 2 HR assistants instead of just an HR assistant and a full-time administrative person. We implemented that model last July. I think it's been both successful for the department, for our department, and for the departments that we've been working so hard to help this year, particularly on recruitment issues. We've sort of right now divided the HR work, and that our new hire is primarily focused on recruitment and those sorts of things. And we're getting ready, or we're starting to organize to get ready, because the other we're expecting another retirement, not in FY23, but not very far after that in HR, and it will be sort of like the HR institutional memory going out the door. So that's going to be I think one of our other focuses this year is to really make sure we're prepared and ready to face that. New software, I think, is going to help us in that regard, so I'm very enthusiastic. I don't think I'm happy to answer any specific questions about the budget request. As I said, there is only a small adjustment, approximately $7,000, and it is primarily attributable to staffing adjustments approved last year.
Thank you very much. Hello to Chair Powers and councilors on the FOP committee. I would like to say I was here in 1999 when we went to the last finance application, and I remember a big bubble diagram. Do you remember the bubble diagram, Councilor Powers? Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. because the current financial software was going to be the end-all be-all, and it had permitting and HR and payroll. That never actually happened. So I will say that, first of all, I'd like to thank the fire chief and the finance team for staying for our very riveting budget review. I will say, I should have said at the beginning, I'm Rebecca Landry, IT Director and Assistant City Manager.
Andrew Mueller, Assistant IT Director.
Andrew, in addition to being our Assistant IT Director, it does also all of our network admin, and he supervises the IT employees. So he's a jack of all trades for sure. The new finance software, I know it's been spoken about already, but I will say that it is really something that we're looking forward to. It certainly is a challenge to migrate all of your financial data, all of your institutional data from one software application into another. We are going, in the IT department, we will be very happy when we're able to press the power button on the finance server. That's something we right now think about doing, hoping we don't have to do until this is complete, because it is a very old server. And we have a number of older applications that we are concerned about for cybersecurity purposes that are used by the finance software. So the new finance application, Munis ERP, will be definitely a breath of fresh air for the IT department. We hope that once it is implemented, that it may also indeed take care of or have the potential to start centralizing some of the functions in the city that are quite disparate now, either done manually or done in separate systems. It would be really, really great if we can start centralizing anything that has a financial impact. For example, uses credit cards. If there is data in one department that is used in another department, centralizing them together will be great. And I do think that this particular application has the ability to do that. So IT. In the coming year, we will be focusing more on cybersecurity using the CIS controls. We've implemented at least half of them. There are 153 of them, so we're at least halfway there. There are also, we're planning to migrate from our current Microsoft Office version, which is a local on-premise version, to Office 365 in the cloud. So we're still working with our consultants to determine what version of licensing, making sure that we can meet CGIS requirements with our software, and then we will be moving into the cloud with our Office environment in the next year. Ideally sooner than later. It will also give us some document management capabilities that we don't have now, and some project management capabilities that we don't have now. And I see the city manager nodding her head. I think she and I are equally as excited about that. So those two will be very time-consuming projects in addition to helping with the Munis transition. One of the differences in our budget this year, we have created a couple of accounts that didn't exist before. They are cybersecurity accounts. It made sense to me over the course of the last couple of years. We've just been lumping our cybersecurity services into our existing general accounts. It made sense to me to pull those out and have accounts that are set aside for that, so you can see how we are focusing our cybersecurity efforts. We have a cybersecurity services account, which is 62195 on page 88, and that will include things like penetration testing software, network scanning and assessment applications. We are outsourcing some services in our professional and technical services as well. Okay, so cybersecurity services, 62195. We will be continuing some monitoring services that we have. We have an organization that is able to see what's going on devices on our network and running various programs to alert themselves and us if there's any unusual activity. They contact Andrew, and Andrew says, yes, we expected this, no, we didn't, and we investigate. That has been very helpful. So this keeps the door open to continue running those software applications or outsource services. We are also doing, including in that line item, our cloud backup and restore software and our training for email awareness and security training for our users is all in that line item. Another new line item is 62785, which is cybersecurity software. And so that includes similar items as I just mentioned. If there are no questions on the IT 00700, okay, then 00701.
Sorry, what? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just those are new funds. You're saying you were clarifying them as new into different buckets. there's no bucket that they're coming from that I can see.
So
But maybe
last
I'm,
year, there were some of the services were in tech services and professional services and training, and so we've pulled those out. We are asking for more funding this year. The city manager was able to help us with that and get them into the manager recommended budget. So.
and I'm not, just sorry, I don't mean to challenge the need for it. I think it's absolutely, with everything going on in the world, it's the right thing to do. I just was trying to understand that, so.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. So with last year, the finance department created Cost Center 00701, which is our cloud-based software. And we are definitely continuing the trend to move more applications to the cloud to the extent that it makes sense financially and as far as data security and access goes. So this year, it's organized more by department instead of by application. So you'll see that shift a bit. So we have a number of applications there in the 6 to 8 level accounts in 00701. This is where the shift that Mary Howe was talking about earlier for the email archive platform moved out of the council budget and into this cost center. There are similar increases because of items that have moved out of department budgets or out of the IT budget into this cost center. When you're ready, we can go to PC replacement. Okay, so with PC replacement, I will say that we had an interesting trend over the last 10 to 15 years. The cost of computers was up here when I started here 20-something years ago, and it came down, and it came down, and it came down. They're far to the level that they were far more affordable. So the money we were collecting from the fees we were charging every department ended up being more than what was necessary to replace those computers. And so the way we handled that was to discount the fees that we were charging each department every year. Over the course of the last 5 years or so, they started to level out, and so it worked out great. Now we're seeing the opposite. The cost of computers is on average, 50% higher than it was a year or two ago. And it's a very difficult challenge. So we're talking about the difference between a $600 computer and now a $1,000 or $1,100 computer, right? Not only is it more pricey, it's also difficult to get in a timely manner. And so this has been a big challenge for the IT team. I will say that they've done a fantastic job of holding on to old equipment long enough to make sure that we have enough of the new equipment. It's also, I don't know how many of the counselors know about this, we have an employee computer purchase program. So this is a time when people who work for the city can buy the retired city computers because they're no longer serviceable, no longer under warranty, and they can buy them for a fraction of the cost of a new system or a used system elsewhere. I really love that benefit that we're providing to our employees. That's also a great way to recycle the equipment. So the way that we've handled this is we have increased the fees. You will see the PC replacement line item in just about every department has gone up a bit. We tried to cushion that blow by only increasing the fees enough to account for half of the increase in the cost of the equipment, with the hope that that will come down over time. Now, we can adjust from year to year. We do a 7-year projection to make sure that the fund stays in the black, right? But one of the ways we did that also was we moved the Office 360. We used to upgrade Office every 5 to 7 years. That's no longer in that fund, no longer in that replacement budget. It has been moved into the cloud software item, and that also helped to cushion the blow.
Do you think that the price increases, like we're seeing everywhere due to COVID and not having the supplies that are needed to build a computer? And are there any projections of that coming back down to?
Good question. There are a number of impacts. The pandemic did affect supply and demand, of course. There were a lot of issues with factories that were not able to produce as many chips as they did in the past. It affected everything from automobiles to desktop computers. So that certainly put at a time when people wanted more laptops because they were doing remote meetings, so supply was going down, demand was going up. It definitely had a price impact. We also, though, are seeing that there are uneasy times around the globe right now, and there are effects that in many ways, not just in computers, but in many ways that affect shipping and supply. So we don't project an immediate recovery of PC costs, but I do hope to see that over the next 3 to 5 years, they will recover some. I don't see it happening in the next year or two. That's me. I'm not an expert on those things, but that's my opinion.
More expert than I am.
Only that you should know, and as part of my salary schedule changes, I'm hoping that you support. Andrew isn't going anywhere. He's going to be promoted in the organization. And so yeah, be happy to talk more about that but I don't want you thinking we're not giving up on Andrew. I don't have any additional closeouts this evening. I can answer any questions on the sections we talked about.
Okay, so we're back again on Thursday night. 5:30. Same time, same place. Regular agenda. FOP first, and we'll continue on with budget presentations. And where will you be, Mr. Remy?
I will be in a different hotel, but still in Jacksonville.
See you then. Thank you.
Yeah. See ya.